Welcome, fair people of YouTube. Today I want to bring you a quick video with the deck analysis, the deck that I created recently on stream in pure order to just destroy Vengeance Blood. Because as you know, Vengeance Blood is one of the most popular decks right now. It's basically Daria of this meta. This deck can easily high roll you. This deck has basically no weak matchups thanks to the sheer power of the mid game. And yeah, I just thought that this deck needs stopping. So first of all, you already see on the screen the deck with the name Vengeance Counter. This is the deck we'll be talking about. Now, why did I choose Shadow? First of all, what are the strength points of Vengeance Blood? It's Spiderweb Imp, 2 mana 1/4, that stops any aggro. Basically it trades for free for another 2/2, but takes 2 turns to die, and also it trades for free versus any tokens like fairies or bats. Another strength is, which is similar to Spiderweb Imp, is plenty of 4 health minions that are above the curve. Belphegor is a 4/4/4/4, that's above a 4/4/4/4. Ha! That's above the curve. Soul Dealer is a 6/4/4/4. Devil of Vengeance is a 4/4/4/3. So, as you can see, a lot of 4 health minions that are above the curve that are hard to deal with. What is the best class for 4 health removal? That's Shadow. Because we have Undying Crescentman that for 2 mana can deal 4 damage, and we have Pact with the Nether God that for 3 mana can destroy a minion with 4 health. Another class that can deal 4 damage for 3 mana is Runecraft with Witch Bolt, which is really hard to fit into any deck because it's a 3 mana spell, so it doesn't really fit D-Shift, it doesn't have guaranteed cycle, it's a bit expensive. And Art of the Ninja from Swordcraft, which, well, if you want to play Control Sword, you don't really stand a chance versus Vengeance Blood because, yes, you will kill the Belphegor or Soul Dealer occasionally, but you will die to their tempo anyway, because Sword is in this weird spot right now. I guess if we really tried, I could brew a Swordcraft that counters Vengeance Blood with Art of the Ninja and like Gawain and the Frontguard General, something like that. We could definitely think of it. But what is important right now is the Vengeance counter deck. So let's jump into it and I will guys show you the ropes. This is the curve. As you can see, it's pretty balanced. I don't have many 5-drops, but that's because the deck is Depth's Ledger deck and this deck doesn't really have too many good 5-drops. So let's go into the edit deck. We'll go in parts. First of all, removal spells. We have, actually no, we'll start from the Depth's Ledger pack. So we play the Depth's Ledger, as you can see. What this card does is basically at the end of the turn, it puts a random Shadowcraft follower that costs less than your total number of play points from your deck into your play and then destroys it. Our only targets for it, because notice it's a only Shadowcraft follower, is Hell's Unleasher, Attendant of the Night. They both generate a Leech, and also Mordecai, which is basically, you know, a Mordecai. If you play Ledger on turn 9 and you still haven't drawn your Mordecais, you have a chance of pulling a Mordecai. Now, why is this so great? Because for only 4 mana, you get a 4/4 on turn 4, and you get a 4/4 on turn 5, so you get basically 2 4/4s for only 4 mana. And what does that mean? Basically that means you are playing your 4/4s above the curve, the same way that Blast does. That's why this is basically, you know, you can match their speed with this Depth's Ledger. Downside is that you have only 3 Depth's Ledgers, and your opponent has like 3 Belphegors, 3 Soul Dealers, 3 Devils of Vengeance, and yeah, he basically has a lot higher odds to draw it. That's why we play removal spells. We have Ghostly Grasp, because this deck generates tons of shadows, and Ghostly Grasp is a very effective removal when you have a lot of spare shadows. Also it can kill Bloodwolf, and it can kill, for example, Belphegor trading into your 3/3 evolved Attendant of the Night, I don't know, whatever. But main thing with that spell is that it is really cheap, right? It's basically 1 mana kill anything as long as you have spare shadows. You won't always draw your Death's Breath, that is your only other use of shadows. And so you will often have a lot of floating shadows that you need to spend in order to, maximize your class potential. Then we have our 4 damage removal spells. We have Undying Presentment, which is really cheap, and will often deal with Soul Dealers, Belphegors, and stuff. And you have Pact with the Nether God. We run 3 of both, because these spells, this deck has to counter Vengeance Blood again, so we run cards that counter Vengeance Blood. This is also a great card in the late game, when you can cast it for 7 mana, get additional Pluto. This way you can kill 2 minions, for example, with an Evo point. Having Evo point on turn 7 is nothing unlikely with this deck. And then we play a single zombie party, mostly because the zombie party doesn't really matter versus Vengeance Blood. The only target that you aim for with zombie party is Urius, and not every Vengeance Blood plays Urius. So yeah, zombie party not really relevant. If you have a better idea for the deck, you can play something else. But zombie party is here because of the enchants effect. It basically generates some board for you. It helps a lot in Dragon and Heaven matchups. These two are your weakest matchups because of the sheer control power they have. Then we have our Dance of Death, which is basically my 5-drop. It helps versus Blood. Sometimes the Belphegor will evolve over your 1/1 or something like that, or your, or just you won't have your 4 damage removals in hand. So this is just a spell removal that fits the curve pretty nicely. After that we have our neutral cards, which is basically Unica, Uriel, Lerial. These are the best 2 drops from neutral cards. Unicorn basically forces a trait, so acts as a taunt. Lerial has very versatile Evo point. And then we have Owlcat. Owlcat is here to counter Spiderweb Imp. This is the main thing with Owlcat. It basically, if your opponent plays a Spiderweb Imp and you have Owlcat on the board, Owlcat is basically a 2 mana 4/2, right? Because you kill the Spiderweb Imp and you still have 1 HP, so it's like 2 mana 4/2. If you kill 2 Spiderweb Imps, it's basically a 2 mana 4/3, so you get 2 mana 4 drop basically almost every time versus Vengeance Blood. Even if you killed Urius with that, it's still great because it's like having a 2 mana 3/2 with no backdraw. It's just a simply amazing card versus Vengeance Blood. Not talking about some Vengeance Bloods that play the Bats Generator, the Summon Bloodkin, only the 2-drop. Because there are basically 2 ways to go with Vengeance Blood. One is to play Urius, which basically most of people do. And the other way is to play, instead of Urius, you play Summon Bloodkin, because you need that 9th 2-drop. But you don't lower the value of your Dark Ire Jammer with Urius, because Urius is sure a great 2-drop, but when you pull it from Dark Ire Jammer on turn 5, it barely matters, because most likely you will be behind on board, or you will be outnumbered on board, more like, because you will on turn 4 play like Belphegor, it will be a 6/4, your opponent will play whatever 5-drop or a 4-drop to trade into it, and if you had a poor early game, which happens pretty often with Vengeance Blood, you will just be outnumbered on the board, right? Your opponent will have his 1-drops, 2-drops, 3-drops, and yeah, he can basically use that tempo to trade into you. And then if you play Dark Ire Jammer, you don't get Taunt, you don't get Storm with Blood Wolf. You basically... Urius is meaningless then, right? Because your opponent will just trade a 3-drop or a 2-drop and 1-drop into it, or will just use a spell, and Urius just dies easily and trades very little. Even if you deal like 1 damage with Urius, that doesn't really matter in this match, in any matchup. So yeah, but we are going off topic here. We are here for Shadow. So Owlcat, meta counter, also great versus Shadow, which is the second aggro deck that is in the meta, and Owlcat is also great against Shadow. So basically you counter both aggro decks, and this deck is great against any aggro deck, even though we don't play any healing. Our only taunt in the deck will be Grimnir, which is simply insane. Helps Heaven matchup a lot. You have to keep Grimnir for turn 10 usually. If you are versus control matchup like Dragon or Heaven, you want to keep your Grimnir in the mulligan. You want to mulligan your Grimnir in the, mulligan phase, because you will be using him only on turn 10. Even if you have the chance to play it sooner, the only case I would see when you play Grimnir is if your opponent plays Mushu on 2, then you have to answer with Grimnir on 3. but Grimir will most likely die anyway, but you have to take that chance. Then we have Double Word to basically proc your Attendants and Hell's Unleasher if you happen to draw them. It works wonderfully with Attendant of the Night on turn 3 and 4. The only problem is that versus Heaven this combo is basically pointless, because first of all your Attendant will most likely get Blackened Scripture, and even if it doesn't, your opponent will just play Priest of the Cudgel the following turn and banish your Attendant which got Urded and trade into your Lich, and then you most likely have to trade Urd into the Priest of the Cudgel. So Priest of the Cudgel completely counters that deck. Well, depending on how your early game stands, right? Because sometimes you will get all cut against their Snake Priestess, then you will get Unica to bait their Blackened Scripture, then they will not banish your Attendant, you will Urd it, or even better, play Death's Ledger on 4. If you play Death's Ledger on 4, you are pretty good in most matchups. The only exception being Heaven, because you just simply cannot kill them. Then we have Death's Breath, which is our second source of taunts. It's not a minion taunt, it's a spell with taunts, so yeah. You know, nothing to explain here, just Death's Ledger, just Death's Breath. Plentiful board, just for 6 mana. And then we have card I simply love, which is Gabriel. And the main reason I have only one Gabriel in this deck is this. And also this. I don't really have Dust, I don't really have Gabriel. I crafted a lot of decks to experiment before Wonderlands, because I am planning on opening 1000 cards of Wonderlands. If you don't follow me on Twitter, definitely do, because I will be announcing on Twitter and on my team Crimson Fencer Discord. You can find us on... I will link you the Discord in the description. And yeah, so I have only one Gabriel, but I would probably replace one zombie party, so I would play 0 zombie party, or one Unica with another Gabriel, because this is surprise damage, this is burst, this is how you kill Vengeance Blood. You have to kill Vengeance Blood with burst most of the cases. This also helps a lot versus Heaven, because you want to, you know, buff your minions so they cannot be banished that easily. Banish is generally only 3 health or lower, right? And then we have Mordecai, nothing to explain. I already went over it, just a great minion, pure synergy with Death's Ledger. We don't play Neptis, why? Because Neptis is much slower, Neptis is much easier to brick with, and Neptis basically doesn't matter versus Vengeance Blood, because if you don't get the Ledger part perfectly in Neptis deck, you won't be living long enough to play the Neptis versus Vengeance Blood. That's why I think that Death's Ledger is, like pure Death's Ledger deck, is much better versus Vengeance Blood than the Neptis deck. Don't get me wrong, I love my Neptis, I definitely love Neptis, it's one of my favorite decks, but this deck is simply better. Versus Vengeance Blood, that is. And versus Shadow I would probably stick to Neptis, because Neptis answers each turn much better, but yeah, this deck is definitely fine versus each turn. So yeah, that will be it, that's the general analysis of this deck. The curve is self-explanatory, you want to have 2-drop, you want to have some removal like Pact with Nethergod or Undying Resentment. Generally you don't keep Attendant of the Night, but you can do it in like Dragon. In Dragon matchup you probably want to keep it. In Blood you definitely don't keep it. When you play versus Vengeance Blood, which is... I will put a VOD of my match versus Vengeance Blood when I show perfectly how the deck counters Vengeance Blood in this video. And yeah, so basically this deck is here just to counter Vengeance Blood again, so you want to be looking for your counters versus Vengeance Blood when you are in this matchup, right? So versus Vengeance Blood you don't need any 2-drops other than Owlcat. You want to be looking for Owlcat, sometimes Ghostly Grasp, you can keep it but I don't recommend it. Undying Resentment is a keep, Pact with the Nethergod is a keep, and Death's Ledger is a keep. You want to be looking only for Pact, Death's Ledger, and Owlcat. Everything else is a mulligan. Sometimes you can keep, I guess, Undying Resentment, but if you don't have Death's Ledger in your hand, I would recommend mulliganing that also. Other cards that you basically top deck them, right? The curve is pretty low. The chance you brick with this deck is extremely low, like you would have to draw all your Death's Breath, Gabriel and Mordecai to brick Like, this is entirely... You have... I don't know how low the chance is, but it's extremely low. I would say it's below the ground, because you literally... Like, your high curve is literally the size of one hand. So, you would have to draw your entire high curve without any exception to brick with this deck. Yeah, with that covered, guys, I will cut the recording here and enjoy this footage of me playing versus Vengeance Blood. Peace. Yeah, but that Gabriel is so good! I think I'm crafting another one. Not sure. Oh, I actually am versus Blood and we haven't found a single card that counters them. Like, I want... in this matchup I want Pact, I want Owlcat, and I want Ledger. 2 drops are optional. I should have probably mulliganed the Lyrial. Oh, there is the Owlcat. That's good. Come on, play your spider webbing. Get countered. Now he has to Razor Recload this. Or Hungering Horde. Or pass. Sure, I will kill them both, why not?
I want it. It's like gold to me. Ooh.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Old cats, old cats. Sure, attack if you want. That's actually a really good attack on his side. This is going probably face or...
Destiny calls.
I am the Mad Cyclone!
No one know your fate. Give it to me again.
I think we win. I don't think he has any chance against this. The old cat did its job. Good job, old cat. I will pat you on the head.
You will soon
Furiously petting.
Ow!
This must be fate.
There is the Pact. But I think like Lyrial is way too good here. Actually, I could save my Lyrial if I spend one spell here.
My wings are killing me.
But I think I would rather develop a 2-2. No, that's pointless, right? The casting spell develops me a 4-4. Definitely cast the spell here. Probably this one, because it's more expensive. Guys, this deck is a wonder. I will make a YouTube video about it.
Sinners be purged.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's definitely good.
Weakness the power. No mercy.
What we lack is burst. That's why I love Gabriel, because you need burst versus Vengeance Blood. I might just evolve Hell's Unleasher into that, to be honest. Yeah, I feel like this is the best play. Or actually, we could just save it for... Yeah, maybe we save it. Let's save it.
You dare defy?
We have Unica, I mean Lyrial too, Evo. No, Olcat finally dead. Death's Breath is good later.
Consume me!
I will abide.
I mean, I was sure that Olcat will be playable as soon as I saw it. I knew it won't be played in every deck and heavy dependent on meta, and now the meta is perfect for Olcat. Shadow and Blood are two main aggro decks, and Olcat counters them both. The only problem is that Olcat is pretty bad versus Dragon, because it literally doesn't put anything in. Yo guys, just one more thing. I thought that we have enough time before the Wonderland Dreamlands, Wonderland Dreams content will start flowing. So I thought that we can cover one more deck from what I play. And this is the Snakeblood. This is the PTP Sword. It's full on troll deck. This is Standard Aegis, Commander Sword with Gawain. Semi-playable, semi not really. Standard midrange, very bad deck in the meta and pretty straightforward, so I don't think anyone will vote for it. Aggro midrange, which is the Standard Shadow. Standard Stormhaven. Standard Vengeance Blood. I mean, not really standard, it plays Soul Dealer and Laura, but this is my favorite version of Vengeance Blood. I think it's the best right now. It's especially powerful in the mirrors. This is D-Shift with Blade Mages with Enchanted Sword instead of Flame Destroyers. It's the faster D-Shift that more often will finish the game on turn 7. This is Rose Queen deck. This is my favorite deck in the game, and it's pretty competitive, I would say, so I will happily cover that, but I think we went over Rose Queen already on this channel. But it was probably a long time ago, so it's outdated video already. This is the Seraph Heaven, this is the Neptis Ledger, this is the OTK Dragon that is surprisingly powerful in the current meta. This is the Token Vampire, basically a bit retro look at the Aggro Vampire with Windgod. This is the Pepe Sword with Vagabond Frog and buffs. This is the Token Sword, interesting concept around Wulfried and tokens. Yeah, it's basically a very original deck, so you can vote for it, but it's pretty bad deck. But it's original. This is the Snowman rune that I will give credit to the proper owner of the list if this list gets voted. And this deck we already covered in this video. So if you guys have any pick from this, just type in the comment which deck you would like to see me cover. If the comment with this deck already exists, please upvote this comment instead. And yeah, that's it. We'll cover one more deck in the video if we get some votes. And with that said guys, it's all for this video. Peace out.